Hey everyone, welcome to part 71 of my Pokemon game series in Unity. So in the last few videos, we have created our quest system. So now the only thing that's pending in the quest system is to save the quest when we save our game. So saving the quest will actually be done in the next video. In this video, we'll refactor all our scriptable object databases so that we don't have to repeat the same piece of code for creating databases for different objects. So once we do the cleanup, we'll be able to create databases of different scriptable objects like this. All right. And all the code for the database will be in this class called ScriptableObject, which we can inherit to create databases of any scriptable object that we want. So I'm cleaning this up now so that we don't have to repeat the same code for creating the quest DB. We can create it in a much more cleaner way, and we can use it in the next video for saving quests. Alright, so let's look at how to implement this. Special thanks to all my Patreons for making this series possible. By becoming a Patreon, you can support me and get access to the complete project files of the series. The project files also contain some advanced features that are not covered on YouTube. So let's start the video. So to save the quest, first we need to create a database that can store all quest scriptable objects, right? So if we look at our scripts, we have already done this for other objects like items, move, and Pokemon. So let me open up the script. So we can simply copy the script and create a new one called questDB to store the quest scriptable objects. So yeah, we can do that if we want. But the thing is, the code inside these database classes are pretty similar, right? So if I look at the code of MoveDB, the code is pretty similar to that of PokemonDB, right? The only difference is here we have a dictionary of Pokemon based scriptable object, and here we have a dictionary of move based scriptable object. And if you look at the item DB script, you can see that it's also pretty similar. The only difference is here we are storing a dictionary of item based scriptable object, right? So we are repeating a lot of code in these classes, which is not really good. One of the first principles of clean coding practices is do not repeat code. So let's actually clean this up by creating a generic class that holds all the common logic. Okay, so let me create a new script for that. So inside script, in util, I'll create a new script called ScriptableObject. Okay, so I am creating this inside util because we can reuse this in multiple projects. All right, so let me open this up and get rid of all the default code. Okay, so this is going to be the generic class that can store different scriptable objects, right? The same class can store item, move, and any other scriptable object that we want in the future. So when using this class, we need a way of specifying what object it should show. All right. So for that, what I'll do is I'll use a feature called generics in C#. So after the class name, I'll add a T like this, and this T will be the type of the object that can be stored in this database. Okay. So now when we use this class, we should also specify the type of the object. So when I use the class like this, then I should also pass the type in here. So I can pass a type like Pokemon base or move base, etc. So this is how we'll use this class. So in Unity, we have been using generic classes and functions all the time. So when you use a function like get component of player controller, for example, you are actually using a generic function. So we've been using generic classes and functions all the time, but this is the first time that we are defining a generic class in the series. So I hope the concept of generics is clear for you. So let's continue with the implementation of ScriptableObject DB. So when using this class, the type that we can pass to it should always be a scriptable object, right? So we should be able to pass types like Pokemon base or move base or item base, etc. But we shouldn't be able to pass types like player controller, right? Since this is not a scriptable object, we shouldn't be able to pass that as a type. Okay, so we can actually limit that by adding an extra piece of code over here. So here I can say where t colon scriptable object. So this will make sure that only a scriptable object can be passed as a type. Okay, so next we need to create a dictionary for storing the objects. So if you look at the Pokemon DB script, here we have a dictionary for storing Pokemon scriptable objects. So similarly, we need a dictionary over here. So let's create that. Okay. So the key of this dictionary is going to be string. And what will be the value? So here the value is Pokemon base since we want to store Pokemons. And here it's item base. So over here, what will be the value? It's going to be the type that we passed into this class, right? So here we can simply use t for the value of the dictionary. Okay, so I'll call this dictionary objects. So we have a dictionary for storing objects by its name as the key. All right, so next we need to define the init function for loading all the scriptable objects and storing it into our dictionary. And then we also need to create the function to get the object by its name. Okay, so first let me copy the init function from here and I'll paste it into our ScriptableObject DB class. All right, so here the name of the dictionary is objects instead of Pokemons. So I'll change Pokemons to objects. All right, and next in this script, instead of using the Pokemon base class, we have to use t. So let me change that. Okay, so next I'll rename this variable called Pokemon array to object array, and I'll rename this variable from Pokemon to obj for object. All right, so now we have an error here. So this is because scriptable object does not contain a property called name by default. So we have defined the name property separately in classes like Pokemon base, move base, and item base, but scriptable object doesn't have that property, right? But the scriptable object has a property called name with a lowercase n. Okay, so you can see that when we use a lowercase n, the error is gone. But these two are two different things. The name with the lowercase n is the name of the scriptable object file, and the name with the uppercase N is the name that we give in the inspector, right? So if we take a look at a scriptable object, the name with the small n is the name of the scriptable object file, and the name with the capital N is the value that we give in the inspector, right? So right now we can't see anything in the inspector because we have an error over here. So let me actually change both of this to a lowercase n. All right. And now if we look at the inspector, you can see all the values. So yeah, the name with the uppercase N is the name that is given in the inspector, and the one with the lowercase n is the name of the scriptable object file. So until now, we were using this name, but we can't directly access it from the scriptable object. So instead of using this, I'll use the name of the scriptable object file. Okay. So we also have to change it in the area where we save the name. So I'll do that later. For now, let's continue with the implementation of this class. So we have the init function. So next, we need to create a function that will get the object by its name. So once again, I'll copy this function and paste it over here instead of writing it from scratch. So I'll change the name of this function to get object by name, and this will return T instead of Pokemon base. All right. So next I'll change Pokemons to objects, and let me also just change the error message over here. All right. So this function will return a reference of the scriptable object if we give its name. So that's all we have to do. Now we have a generic class that we can reuse for creating scriptable object databases. So first let's try using it on the Pokemon DB. So in the Pokemon DB, we don't need any of this code. All right. All of that is already written in the scriptable object DB, right? So here, all we have to do is inherit from the scriptable object DB class, and for the object, we just need to pass Pokemon base. So this is all we have to do, and we'll have a database for storing Pokemon scriptable objects. But we might have some issues in the place where we are using it because we changed the name of the functions, right? Earlier it was called get Pokemon by name. Now we change it to get object by name to make it generic. So let me change the name of the function where we are using it. All right. So I'll change this to get object by name. Okay. So next, while I'm here, I also want to do another thing. So in the database, we switch from using the name with an uppercase N to the one with the lowercase n, right? So we should also use lowercase n when we are saving the Pokemon. All right. So that's all the change that we need to make. So next, let's clean up the move DB in the same way. So let me remove all the code in it. All right. And I'll make it inherit from scriptable object DB. And for the type, I'll pass move base. Okay. And by the way, I have a typo over here. So let me just fix the spelling of scriptable object. Okay. I'll have to rename the script also. So let me go to Unity and do that. All right. So this is all we have to do to create a database of move scriptable objects. But again, we might have errors in the areas in which we are using it. So let me go over here. So previously, the name of the function was get move by name. So let me change that to get object by name, and that should fix the error. So next, let me also change the name with uppercase N to lowercase n. All right. So that's all we have to do for the move. So next, let me do the same for the item DB. So let me get rid of all the code in it, and I'll make it inherit from scriptable object DB and pass item base for the type. All right. So again, we have to change the name of the function. So previously it was called get item by name, and I'll change it to get object by name. All right. And finally, I'll also change the uppercase n to lowercase n for the name. Okay. So we have refactored all our database classes, and this is much more cleaner. We are not repeating any code. All the common code is inside the ScriptableObject DB class. All right. So let's go to Unity and test to make sure that nothing has broken after we made the change. So we just have to make sure that Pokemon moves and items are being saved and restored correctly. All right. So let me actually start a battle and make some changes to my Pokemon so that we can test if the change is being saved correctly. All right. So let me actually take some damage by battling this Bulbasaur. Okay, so I took some damage, and this should be saved when we save the game. All right. And also, if you look at the move, the PP of the scratch is now 19 because we used it once. So this should be saved when saving the move. Okay. And finally, let me make some changes to the items so that we can also test that. So let me go start this quest real quick. So this will spawn a pickup over here. So I can go pick that up. All right. And now we should have revive in our inventory. So this should be saved when we save our item, right? So let's go ahead and save the game. Okay. And now we can restart it and check if everything is being restored correctly. All right. So let me load. So first let me check the item. Okay. So you can see that the revive that we picked up has been restored correctly. So we can say items are saved correctly. So next let me start a battle and check if the changes to my Pokemons and moves are saved correctly. All right. So here you can see my Pokemon still has the damage that we took before saving. So we can confirm that the Pokemons are being saved and restored correctly. All right. And finally, let me check the move. So yeah, you can see the PP of the scratch is still 19. So the move is also being saved and restored correctly. So that's awesome. Our scriptable object DB implementation is working correctly. So next, let's create a DB for the quest using the same approach. So here I'll create a script called quest DB. All right. Let me get rid of the default code. And all you have to do here is make it inherit from ScriptableObject DB, and pass quest base as a type. So this will automatically create a database of all the quests that we have. But one thing we have to do is we have to initialize the quest DB like we initialize all the other databases. So let me go to the game controller, and in the awake, I'll also initialize the quest DB. Alright, so that's all we have to do. So we have a quest DB which we can use to get the basic details of quests when we save it. So saving quests will be done in the next video. So I'll stop the video here. If you think these videos are helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. That'll really help me out. So I'll see you in the next video.